Now I'd like to give Michelle an opportunity to talk about Latinos, women's relationship with money and saving patterns.
You know, when I told my husband that I was going to be a member of a panel on finance and retirement, he laughed. We've been married for 36 years, and he has been the one, because of his talent with numbers, to take care of most of our retirement and investment planning. And this stems mostly from my personal aversion to numbers rather than an ethnic predisposition to turn things over to the man of the house. My daughter, on the other hand, an undergrad theater major, is getting an MBA, and she's the one who manages all the money in their household. So it's not necessarily an ethnic trend. My role here today is to talk about the Latina approach to retirement savings and finance. And such a mission is really complex because members of the Latino and Latin American population of our country can't merely be dumped into a nice, neat folder, although all those cute little forms that they have us fill out where you check your ethnic background, make it seem that way. The term Latin or Latina usually refers to people in our country who are Spanish speakers, but it may include anyone of Latin American heritage. There are 21 countries in the world where Spanish is spoken, and most of those are south of our borders. But they also include Spain, Africa's Equatorial Guinea, and the United States. The United States is fifth in numbers of Spanish speakers in the world, with more than 22 million Spanish speakers. And it is only preceded by Spain, Argentina, Colombia, and Mexico. Mexico has over 86 million people. Latin America includes the Spanish-speaking countries, but it also incorporates Brazil, where Portuguese is spoken, and several other countries. When we examine these countries, we discover that their ethnic composition is as diverse as the United States. There are people of European descent, Asians, Arabs, indigenous people, and those of African heritage. Whereas Spanish is the predominant language, there are hundreds and hundreds of indigenous languages, and lots of other, with the immigrants, there's lots of other languages spoken there. Catholicism is the dominant religion, yet there are Jews, Muslims, Animists, religions of African origin like Candomblé, Santeria, and Banda. And evangelical and mainstream Protestant sects have really increased their numbers of members. As stated in Target Latinos article, Inside Hispanic America, and I quote, "To fully understand the Hispanic market, you need to analyze it by country of origin, level of acculturation, age, sex, marital status, and educational level." In the United States, the three predominant Latino groups are Mexicans, Cubans, and Puerto Ricans, but we have people from all over Latin America, Spain, and other places who make their homes here. And it's important to keep in mind that there are lots of commonalities, but there are lots and lots and lots of differences. When we look at Latinos in the United States in comparison with the rest of the population with regards to retirement, and we look at the April 6, 2011 study by Hispanic Marketing and Public Relations website and podcast, which studied a 401k participation. They evaluated 3 million 401k plans at 57 companies and discovered that Hispanics save significantly less for retirement than their white and Asian colleagues, which shouldn't be a surprise given Chia-Li's discussion. Whites contribute 7.9% of their income. Only 65% of Hispanic workers have 401k plans, and they contribute only 6.3% of their income. This 65% is mainly with Fortune 500 companies, and when you look at a different study by the National Council of La Raza, they discovered that 401k plan participation across the U.S. for Latinos is 30%, and the average balance in the account is $5,000. That's not good. And it really, given that the 401k is a principal retirement vehicle, really assures a high possibility of poverty-level retirement living. Significant findings produced by this report in 2009 by HispanicMarketing.com indicated that only 41% of Latinos said they saved money for retirement. Only 25.6% of Latinos were covered by employer-sponsored retirement plans, compared to 42.5% of whites and 40% of African Americans. Almost 80% of Latinos receive more than 50% of their retirement income from Social Security. And those who are 65 and older receive about maybe $2,124 less in earnings than non-Hispanics. It's not a pretty picture. Reasons for lower participation are several. Two of the biggest reasons is a poor understanding of retirement plans, and a lack of understanding of the United States financial system. This situation, for those two reasons, is particularly caused by a lack of linguistic facility in English. The Pew Hispanic Study on English Usage shows that in the United States, only 23% of first-generation Latinos can carry on a proficient conversation in English, and that 52% of foreign-born Latinos speak only Spanish at home. This really affects women particularly because, particularly in the lower socioeconomic levels, they're the ones left at home with the children. They have little access to transportation. They have no ability to get out and develop their English, which they would love to do because they're pretty lonely. And if they're working and they're not educated, they're usually working in domestic situations, which increases isolation and doesn't give them any access to retirement plans or really any access to learning English. The lower levels of education with portions of the Latina community really affect them. Less facility with English, as a result, less access to the internet, and little or no access to relevant financial information in Spanish, either on the internet or in the media. Some of the disparity in wealth and achievement is going to be ameliorated with generations coming with a better education, but only for those who are not affected by the very high dropout rate in Latina and Latino youth. Additionally, contributing to their low level of retirement plan, participation and savings rate is a mistrust of the banking and commercial system. Many immigrants come from countries where there's extremely high inflation, and putting money in the bank really doesn't buy you anything, even if you trust your bank. And when we went to Brazil in the early 90s, when inflation was really going crazy in Brazil, and the Cruzeiro was the currency, we were there for 3 weeks. And when we arrived, it was 45,000 Cruzeiros to the dollar, and when we left 3 weeks later, it was 55,000 Cruzeiros to the dollar. So Brazilians, especially at that particular time of their history, certainly weren't putting money in the bank. They were buying tangible goods. And they were hoping to get hold of dollars. So, if you come from that kind of background, you're not going to go down to Bank of America or Wells Fargo and put money in the bank. Affinity mentality also contributes to lower savings and retirement participation. Affinity mentality is when a particular group seeks services, information, products, and guidance within their own group rather than branching across the group. This is really typical of immigrants, especially first-generation, possibly second-generation immigrants, and it's very unfortunate. For one thing, it doesn't help you understand your majority culture that you moved to for a better life, right? And if you don't understand that, you're not going to get the better life that you achieve for you and your children. Additionally, it really isolates you from other people in the community and makes you feel very discriminated against. And in many cases, discrimination is really there. In others situations, it's really not. You've done it to yourself. Economic reasons also contribute to a lack of savings and retirement plan participation. For those who are not in the middle or upper class, Latino groups, then you can't afford to save. It's very much what you were describing, Catherine. You just can't do it. You've got to make your rent, you've got to feed your children, and you just can't put that money in the bank. And then additionally, when you take all of those into consideration, often there's a family culture that does not emphasize savings because of all these other reasons. And so when you talk to a Latino and you ask them, well, how long do you think you need to save for retirement, you get 3 to 5 years. And all of us know 3 to 5 years isn't going to do it. If you talk to someone in the mainstream culture, middle upper class African Americans, middle upper class Asians, whites, you're going to hear 20, 30, 40 years of savings towards retirement as opposed to 3 to 5 years. So it's very difficult for that particular group, who's especially first and second generation, to figure out what to do with our system.
Thank you, Michele.